Hey, what's going on, everybody? So this is actually my first time doing this, but I'm kind of jumping on the bandwagon because I guess I have a lot to say about things like this. A lot of anticipation surrounding the release of Batman vs. Superman, so I thought I'd chime in and give some of my thoughts about the movie. Overall, I liked the movie. It's getting a little bit of unfair um, flack and negative reviews. I'm kind of surprised that they're as bad as they are, and there are clearly a lot of expectations for this movie, and obviously a lot of movies like this. Perhaps there are too many expectations. I know that I've been waiting to see this movie in particular for the last 3 years since they announced it at Comic-Con. And once they showed the trailer with, no spoiler here, but Doomsday, and also the reveal of Wonder Woman, which I thought would have made for a great reveal in the movie. If we hadn't seen that in the trailer, that would have been more impactful. But, just the whole animation for Doomsday just looked kind of like one of the cave trolls from Lord of the Rings, and not particularly impressive. I liked the movie, but the movie has some serious problems. First of all, I thought the movie got off to a good start. I thought Act 1 of the film was pretty strong. It was definitely different than what we had seen in the Christopher Nolan movies. The movie starts like trying to figure out what kind of movie it wants to be, and I don't really think it ever really figured that out. It starts jerking you around to like different storylines and different character threads, and it's amazing how some films can handle that really well, like a Lord of the Rings movie or the Avengers. Dozens of main characters, but everybody kind of has their role, and kind of there's like the central storyline that they're all driving toward, and in this movie it's sort of like just felt disparate and disconnected, and it's kind of hard to like stay too engaged. I didn't feel like it was particularly too long. In a lot of ways I was also waiting for the movie to like end and like culminate and like find out like where is this all leading to. That sort of brings me to like some of the dream sequences where they had a lot of those kind of really odd moments. I won't really spoil anything with like what's within them, but I mean there's just some things that are happening that I'm just like, whoa, this is slowing down the pace of the movie. It's not really driving towards the plot of the film. So I mean, I just thought that didn't really need to be there, and you also probably could have shaved off 20 minutes off of the movie. This brings me again to the plot of the movie. So the plot, basically the storyline of the movie is that, it's about 2 years after Man of Steel, and after sort of like the Black Zero incident where the big spaceship sort of crashed through Metropolis, and General Zod and Superman are having this fight. And I love how the movie started with showing that from Bruce Wayne's perspective, seeing him kind of like come into that scenario and how he feels about it. The film sort of becomes this whole almost like a little espionage movie for a little while, where Lois Lane's sort of tracking down this like terrorist group, and then all this stuff happens with like this bullet and finding and tracing the bullet and where it all leads to, and it's pretty obvious where it leads to the big villain of the movie, Lex Luthor, who's also trying to exploit basically the weaknesses of Superman that are sort of like side effects from what happened at the end of Man of Steel. There's some kryptonite stuff going on in there, and I like the way that they handled it. I just felt like, again, this was an example of how the movie was just like really trying to figure itself out. You have all this political stuff with like Superman and Congress, and like people feeling like they were hurt by Superman, and Batman's trying to track things down, and Lois is trying to track things down, and it's just like, how are all these things connected? Like, when is it going to sort of like streamline into like one movie? I would say that the standout performance in this movie has got to be Ben Affleck as Batman. I mean, the guy kind of nailed it, in my opinion. I thought he was great, Batman. I mean, he was pretty brutal, man. He really didn't like hold back, and I guess that also brings me to maybe quasi-spoiler in that Batman's kind of killing folks in this movie. I don't know. Like, he doesn't kill people. Like, that's like his whole mission. It's like to see if he could like not do that. And so here, I guess it's like, Zack Snyder's choice and the screenwriter's choice, and they're trying to create their own version of Batman. So that makes sense to me. I feel like it's going to take some getting used to in like upcoming movies, or maybe he'll change his perspective on that and decide that maybe he's gonna leave, you know, criminals for the justice system to kind of, you know, be handled. Needless to say, Batman's the action. I mean, that he, you know, like the fight scenes and stuff. Man, he kicked ass. I mean, there's one part where he just like rock bottoms like one of these criminals. I mean, great fight scene, great choreography. I'm wondering how much Affleck did. Probably not much. So his performance was great. Probably the standout of the movie. Henry Cavill as Clark Kent, Superman, Kal-El, I thought was good. I thought he had a lot more opportunities to shine in Man of Steel. You get the sense that like they're going for like a bit of more mature, a bit more realistic, a little bit more dark kind of portrayal of Superman. So I get that. That's cool. He's still kind of like trying to figure out like who he is and like what his place in the world is, and in a way I'm like waiting for him to figure that out so that we could just have like a Superman movie. But with that said, I did empathize with the character. I actually cared about like him. I even told my friend who I was watching the movie with, I was like, oh, I feel bad for him, you know. Next up, I guess we'll go to Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. I mean, perhaps even in some ways more controversial casting than Ben Affleck as Batman. I didn't really care for the performance. Again, I think it's just like what the studio wants, what the director wants, the writer wants, and whatever the mixture created this kind of like cartoon character that just felt so out of place in this movie. I don't know. I don't really know what he was doing. His dialogue was just like, I mean, half the time I was like, I don't know what that means. Just like rhetoric, and wasn't feeling Lex Luthor. Amy Adams, serviceable. She did a good job with what she had to do. It's hard, I guess, being kind of like the mortal character among all these godlike figures, you know, trying to help the plot, basically help the plot move forward with the kryptonite and blah, blah, blah. So she was fine. There are some little relationship things between her and Clark that I'm like, I wish there could have been more of that stuff, because I always liked their relationship in the comics. Gal Gadot, again, another controversial casting. People were worried about Wonder Woman, you know, and her maybe lack of experience, and people concerned over her bra size and all of this stupid shit. I thought she was really good. I really liked her. I thought she was pretty cool. Like, I wish there was more of her. Same time, I actually think it was just enough, because it kind of whets your appetite for like that Solo movie that's coming, I think, next year. And obviously, she's insanely beautiful, and you know, she kicked ass. I'm glad they kind of refrained from like really like immersing us in her storyline, because again, it's Batman versus Superman, and I'll get to like kind of like the main event in a moment. But obviously know that given the title, Dawn of Justice is sort of like a prequel to this Justice League movie that's coming out. There's a little bit of setup for the future movies, and I think that's maybe my least favorite aspect of comic book movies now. I won't give away details. There's some interesting moments with how they sort of introduce other members of the Justice League, but I felt like it was could have been done better. It almost felt like they literally had somebody be like, and introducing the Justice League. You know, it felt a little like forced. I thought that little segment of the movie could have been a great post-credit scene, but they're trying not to copy Marvel. And I'm not even really going to discuss like Doomsday. I think you all know, if you've seen the trailer, that like he's in the movie. They did what I guess they felt like they could. Again, it felt like it was sort of forced into the movie to kind of introduce another storyline and kind of just wrap the movie up, and they fight a big monster at the end, and you know, it was a cool spectacle, but like not that much emotional investment. The title of the damn movie is Batman versus Superman, and there wasn't really that much of Batman versus Superman in the movie. The action sequence, which is like about like 8 minutes long of them like actually like fighting, was cool. It looked great. You know, to be honest, I don't think there was one frame of this movie that I didn't think was beautiful or looked good. There's just, you know, I just like wanted more of certain things, you know, or less of certain things, like these dream sequences. But the fight between them was pretty cool. I really hated the reason for them to fight. It's like the whole first half of the movie is like setting up the conflict between them and why they don't like each other. And then they kind of almost completely ignore all of that setup to introduce this new plot point that is the reason for them to fight. And it just felt like, huh? I just want a little bit more. I just wanted a little bit more, you know, like lean protein as opposed to just like kind of like fast food. Overall, let's sum it up. You know, I like the action. I like the visuals. I like the performances. I liked the story and the narrative, but it had a lot of issues, a lot of problems that could have been like kind of easily written in a different way to just like add more weight to like why Batman and Superman are fighting, why Batman feels like alienated by this alien. Do we need a savior? All these questions are great. Again, I just felt like the movie could have just handled it a lot better. I'm going to work on a rating system here. I don't really have one quite yet, but I'm going to give it, given that I am a teacher, I'm going to give it like a letter grade. So A obviously being, you know, the highest, and an F being a complete fail. So I would give the film, I'm going to give it a C. That's my little non-spoiler review of Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, the worst title in cinematic history, in my opinion. I don't know. So there was just some weird choices in this movie. That's my review. If you like it, click like. If you don't like it, don't click like. If you want to share it, go ahead. I just felt like kind of like rambling about comic book movies for a few minutes. So yeah, there will be a YouTube channel coming up sometime in the near future. So yeah, wish me luck.